now you and I were talking before the show. I am a little bit more pessimistic, I think, on multifamily than you are.
Yeah.
So let me make my argument, and
Okay.
then you give me like the intelligent answer. All right.
I'm sure yours is also intelligent.
So what I'm seeing is I learned recently that I felt apartments have been overpriced for some time now. That's how I felt, but I couldn't justify. I couldn't explain it because I'm not an expert. But it just felt like it was overpriced because the cap rate kept going lower and lower and lower, meaning the value is higher and higher, right? And then I recently learned that the cap rate is very closely tied to what you can borrow money at. So if you can borrow at 3 and you buy it at 4, then great, right? Like that's really what they're looking at. Where they buy for whatever, they do a cash out refi at a lower cap rate, right? That's tied to the Fed rate, inflating the value, not inflating, but increasing the value of the property. So my concern is kind of like what we saw with a lot of people buying right now. Going interest rates were at 3% at the beginning of the year, if you can believe that, right? For a 30-year mortgage.
Crazy. Yep.
And it jumped up to 6. Now it's down to about 5. But that greatly affected, right, the values of single-family homes. At least it did in Phoenix, which I think is the most volatile in the country.
I do think you get a trophy for that. But yes.
Yeah, we got one right here. Right? We got a trophy here. So that is my concern as far as multifamily. So what are your thoughts on my concerns?
So what I like about multifamily is it's really just about the numbers of what that asset can produce. It has less to do about comparable sales with single family. Like, for example, if you own a property and somebody on that street sells it for too low, or maybe they're distressed and they sell it, then your price goes down. No matter how good your house is, right? It's going to negatively affect you. Same thing goes with rental. Like if you're getting additional rent of that single family house and somebody sells low, your property's worth less, right? With what I love about commercial property, and I know the most about multifamily residential compared to storage and things like that. I won't speak to those because that I don't. That's not my game. But I like it because as long as you're getting good rental numbers, you can generally get a good cap rate, right? Now, the price of acquisition of what you can pay for a property, of course, you have to take into account what you need to pay for debt on that property, right? So if the debt is cheaper, then you can generally pay more, right? So that's definitely true. And I will say that I think apartments in general, you have to buy a little bit deeper now because it's more expensive to borrow, right? Right. But the reason why I think it's a safer asset class is, especially in an inflation market, is the same problem that we have with buying multifamily. Normal mom and pop, first time home buyers, everybody has with buying a house. So if it becomes more difficult to get debt, then those people can't buy a house. Or maybe they can't afford it anymore. Maybe that $1,000 difference now actually makes it cheaper to rent, which is actually what we're finding in a lot of markets. Before, it was more expensive to rent compared to what you can get on a mortgage if you get a mortgage at 2%. It's really hard to compete with that, right? But now if we're looking at 5-6%, then it's cheaper to rent. So the people who can't afford a mortgage or can't afford that interest rate, they're going to have to be somewhere. They're going to be in an apartment building, or they're going to rent a single family house. They're going to move it'll migrate to rentals essentially. And the large multifamily is essentially more scalable in that because it's all under one roof. CapEx in general is about the same. So I like that. But those who are credit worthy win. Right. And the way I have always played the game, my husband and I have always played the game, my friends have played the game, is the long game. So thankfully, over the last 10 years or so that we've been in business, with little under 10 years, we've always taken our credit into account. We've always put money away. I'm not going out there buying Ferraris. I'm not just spending all the money. A significant portion got reinvested into the company, almost all of it. I didn't pay myself for forever, right? And then we saved a little bit of money. We have company liquid essentially, and then we have personal liquid. So now when we're looking at creditworthiness and personal guarantees for an apartment building, I'm a pretty creditworthy individual. Right. So it's easier for me to get loans than probably a traditional person, right? I've had W-2 income forever. Like at the hospital, I have W-2 income for all my companies. I pay myself W-2 now. So I have all that to display and I can generally get good debt. Does that mean I have to buy a little bit different? Yeah. But
Right.
those deals are still there.
Well, I think the deals will be there. My concern is if the strategy, right, is to buy something that's you're buying it at a good price, but you're gonna do the rehab, and you're gonna fix it up, and you're gonna do a cash out refi,
Oh, so you're
right?
saying the refi you're worried about.
Yeah, I'm worried about what you can refi for because the original plan was like I can do a refi out and get this up to like 18. Well, now maybe cash out refi is like I can get up to 16. Like, can I repay out back all the LPs? And then, if I need to sell this, right? Because a part of the exit, a lot of the multifamily, I know that our strategy is a little bit different, but a
Yeah.
lot of guys is to stabilize it and sell it.
Yeah.
Well, you might not be able to get your exit strategy is completely changed, or your pricing has changed. At least that's my speculation.
Yeah. And so, again, this has to go down to the acquisition. Just like single family, you make your money on the buy.
Right.
So you have to take that into account. What is going to be the refi capability later, right? And when you're buying it, and you increase the value of the property, let's say the business plan is executed well, if you have to exit at a higher percentage rate on the refi, does this all still work?
Right.
And you just essentially can't do it unless you can get your lenders out in 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
You just have to bet on that, right?
So
You gotta wait.
yeah, the